The city was already breaking long before the first shot was fired. Артём Громов stood at the window of his small apartment on the 12th floor, watching rain crawl down the glass like slow, dirty tears. Neon signs bailed into the puddles below, smearing the streets in sickly colors. Somewhere far away, a siren howled and died. The city never slept, it twitched, groaned, and waited. Громов rubbed the scar on his knuckles, a habit he had never managed to shake. The scar was older than his exile from the police, older than the little used to bury his career. He had learned something since then: cracks don't appear suddenly. They grow quietly, patiently, until the whole structure collapses. The phone rang. 2 часа 17 минут. At that hour, only bad news had the courage to call. He didn't rush to answer. He let it ring twice more, listening to the vibration crawl across the cheap wooden table. When he finally picked it up, he didn't say a word. Breathing, rugged, wet. Громов, the voice on the other end was hoarse, as if scraped raw from the inside. If you're hearing this, I didn't make it. Артём's jaw tightened. He knew that voice as well as his own. Лёха, he said quietly. What the hell did you do? A short, painful low crickled through the speaker, followed by a that sounded wrong, to a deep, to a final. Don't trust anyone, Lёха said. Especially those above us. This isn't just a murder. It is the whole machine. Громов closed his eyes. Images flashed, night shifts, stale coffee, back-to-back cases, standing in the rain after shootouts and swearing it was the last one. Lёха had always believed the system could be fixed. That belief had cost him. There is a Safi, the voice continued, weakening. Industrial zone, old freight warehouse. If it is still there. A sharp crack, metal against metal, a blood that never finished. The line went dead. For a long moment, Артём held the phone to his ear, listening to nothing. Then he stood, slowly, as if sudden movement might shatter what was left of the night. They got you, he muttered. Didn't even hesitate. He grabbed his jacket from the chair. The weight of the pistol under his arm was familiar, almost comforting. As he stepped into the hallway, the light flickered, just once, but it was enough to make him pause. The city had shifted. Somewhere deep inside its concrete bones, a crack had just grown wider. The warehouse squatted at the edge of the industrial zone like a forgotten animal, half swallowed by rust and darknesses. Артём cut the engine a block away and continued on foot, boots splashing softly through shallow puddles. The rain had turned to a cold mist, clinging to his coat and the back of his neck. To a quiet. He circled on us, scanning the broken windows, the sagging sliding dock, the bent security fence. No cars, no voices, no cigarette glow in the dark. That worried him more than an ambush would have. The look on the side door was new. Lёha's voice echoed in his head, and Артём felt the familiar, bitter confirmation settle in his chest. Someone had been here recently. He forced the door open with a crowbar from his trunk, the metal shrieking just loud enough to make his pulse jump. Inside, the air smelled of oil, damp concrete, and something metallic. Blood. His flashlight beam cut through the darknesses, landing on footprints smeared across the floor. One set dragged, another moved clean and precise. Professionals. Damn it, Lёха, Артём whispered. He followed the trail past empty shelves and collapsed crates until the light caught a body slumped against a steel pillar. Alexei Rudnev sat as if he had simply decided to rest, head tilted slightly to the side. One shot, through the temple. Артём knelt, checking out of reflex event he already knew. The skin was cold, the eyes stared at nothing. No sign of a struggle, just execution. He swallowed hard and closed Lёha's eyes. I should have come sooner. The Safi was gone. In its place, a jagged rectangle of torn metal gaped from the wall. Whoever had taken it knew exactly where to look. They hadn't rushed. They hadn't needed to. Артём stood, anger tightening his spine. He turned to leave, already replaying the call in his head, when his flashlight swept across the far wall. A crack. Thin, fresh, wrong. Concrete dust still clung to the edges. He pressed his fingers into it and felt hollow space behind. With a grunt, he widened the opening and reached in. A flash drive, wrapped in plastic, and beneath it, a police badge, smeared with drying blood. Internal affairs. Артём stared at it, feeling something heavy settle in his gut. Satates it, he murmured. Sirens wailed in the distance, growling louder. Someone had called it in. Or worse, someone wanted him found here. He slipped the flash drive into his pocket, stood, and took one last look at his fallen partner. "I'll finish it," he said quietly. Then he disappeared into the night, just as headlights flared at the far end of the street. Morning arrived without mercy. Артём sat in his car across the street from a random cafe, hands wrapped around a paper cup he hadn't touched. Steam rose into the grey air, carrying the bitter smell of cheap coffee. The warehouse scene was already all over the news, suspected gang violence, unknown perpetrators. The usual convenient folk, who watched people pass, workers, students, a woman arguing into her phone. None of them knew how close they were to the edge. None of them ever did. The engine behind him roared. Артём barely had time to react before a black SUV surged forward, slamming into his rear bumper. Metal screamed. His cup flew from his hands, coffee splattering the windshield like dark blood. He twisted the wheel hard, tears shrieking as the car fishtailed across the wet asphalt. Shit, the SUV hit him again, this time from the side, trying to push him into oncoming traffic. No warning, no theatrics, clean and deliberate. They weren't there to talk. Артём slammed the brakes, forcing the SUV to overshoot. He threw the car into reverse, clipped a parked van, then shot forward and turned sharply into an alley. Trash bins exploded under his bumper. The alley narrowed, walls closing in, steam hissing from sewer grates. The SUV followed. At the dead end, Артём stopped. He was already out of the car when the SUV skidded to a halt. Pistol up, two men stepped out, moving with practiced calm, faces blank. No insania, no hesitation. The first man raised his weapon. Артём fired. The alley erupted with sound. Shots cracked, sparks jumping from brick and metal. One of the men went down, screaming, clutching his leg. The second ducked behind the SUV and returned fire, bullets chiving into the wall inches from Артём's head. Артём moved without thinking. Years of muscle memory took over. He rallied, came up behind a dumpster, fired twice. The second man staggered, dropped his gun, and fell hard onto the concrete. Silence crashed down just as fast. Артём stood there, chest heaving, rain dripping from his hair. The wounded man groaned, trying to crawl. Артём approached slowly, gun steady. "Who sent you?" he asked. The man lied, short, breathless, panicked. "You're already dead, Громов." A shot rang out. The man's head snapped sideways. He collapsed, motionless. Артём spun around. A third figure stood at the mouth of the alley, weapon already lowered. The shooter didn't run, didn't speak, just turned and disappeared into traffic like a ghost. Артём lowered his gun, hard. Pounding, they hadn't tried to kill him, they tested him. He whipped rain from his face and looked up at the grey sky. "Finn," he muttered, "you're off."